It was a very weird existence for a teenager. And everything that I went through in my life, they wrote it in Who's the Boss.
Man, what's happening, man? You got Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch,
Doug Hendrickson,
and Gavin Newsom, and you're listening to Politickin.
June on the beat. June on the beat.
Gavin, we have in the waiting room a long-time actress from childhood on epic shows like Who's the Boss, to a producer, a writer, director, a Broadway star, activist, someone that has been involved in incredible things forever. And you know what? She's also a big fan of the NFL, Marshawn. She's also a big fan of the Dodgers.
She's a Dodger. We'll hold that hold that slightly against her. Yeah, slightly.
The great Alyssa Milano. Alyssa, how are you?
Hey, Alyssa.
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
We're good.
Yeah.
We're doing great.
I mean, as well as people can be doing.
Right.
With the Dodgers winning the World Series, I'm still haven't fully recovered from that.
And you're not very busy as a governor, right? You have nothing.
I know. I actually feel pretty good about that. Yeah. I was happy they beat the.
Wait, you're not a Dodgers fan?
I'm from San Francisco.
Oh,
Alyssa,
I know. Come on.
I know I'm the governor of California. I did a Go Dodgers video. Okay, I'm all in. Like I did a bet with the governor of New York. I won the bet. It was a great thing.
The Giants had enough World Series championships. It was our time. We've had a good run. I have no doubt that the Giants will be back up there at some point. But give us our moment, for fuck's sake.
Really, your moment. And you're gonna have so many moments coming up. It means crazy.
Wait, Alyssa, are you a Bronx girl or a Brooklyn girl?
I'm a Brooklyn girl. So my dad used to sneak into Ebbets Field from under the bleachers. So So I had no choice.
He had blueprint, huh? On how to get the fuck in.
That's right.
We ain't paying that high ass cost to get in there for them $50 hot dogs, $20 boxes of popcorn and shit.
He had a system.
So Alyssa, you grew up as a kid as a sports fan. Then your younger years, 6, 7, 8. You grew up Dodger fan. Was it Yankees? What was it?
It was a Yankees. I was a Yankees fan because my dad was rebelling against the National League because they moved the Dodgers, and I lived in New York still at the time. When I got Who's the Boss, we moved out to California, and of course the Dodgers became more geographically convenient, and my dad became a Dodgers fan. So literally the way I wrote a book about this called Safe at Home. The way that I connected with my dad throughout my childhood was through baseball. And I used to, fall asleep to the sound of Vin Scully's voice calling games. And my son now plays pretty competitive. I mean, as competitive as you could be at 13.
So did you sneak into any games?
I may have snuck into a few clubhouses.
Oh, shit.
Okay. That's scary. We won't go there, Alyssa. That's scary. I love that.
You leveling up like a motherfucker on the You come on, you got the whole vibe in the background, then you sneak in the game. You say, I sneak in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So Alyssa, you love the baseball players. Any football players, hockey? Was it always baseball, the love of baseball?
My first boyfriend was a hockey player. He actually was on the Kings. Got traded for Kelly Rudy. Remember that trade?
I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Marshawn, Alyssa, is part owner of the Seattle Kraken, so he's a big hockey guy.
I love hockey. My brother went to Shattuck St. Mary's as a kid, which is a boarding school in Minnesota, on a ice hockey scholarship.
Oh, shit.
We're a big hockey family. My son just didn't, he gravitated more towards baseball, but we gave him both opportunities. We were like,
well, yeah, you got to be a different type of individual to get out there on that ice.
It's true.
That shit is, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it's not.
I got out there on the ice and got one of them sticks and got to fucking around a little bit. And then I was like, you know what? I got a different level of respect for them dudes. Like, I
mean, it's incredible. The athleticism is incredible.
Yes, that's what really opened my eyes. Like, them motherfuckers would get up and be skating full speed forwards and then slide on a dime and start doing that shit backwards on ice. So yeah, you know what? I got them. And then they have come and run into slide into your ass and hit you into the.
And then they have to take this very small little black puck and shoot it into the net with how many defenders on the ice. I mean, it's nuts.
No, and they're tough and they want to hit you and they want to fight.
Yeah,
And then
and
they
they
just
don't
want to
care
go
about
some
their
beers
team.
afterwards. Just have a beer.
The only thing I'm upset about with hockey is I was a Mighty Ducks fan growing up. And I used to love the Flying V.
Yeah.
And when I found out that wasn't
a thing.
Shit, yeah, man, I was fucked up. That crushed all my childhood. You know what I mean? But I'll get out there and fuck around if I could go skate like really fast. It's just the stopping and going backwards and shit.
That's right. That's part. By the way, it can't be surprised on the West Coast, California. There's no. Where do you play hockey as a kid?
Oh, everywhere.
I understand the baseball.
Everywhere. As soon as Gretzky came to California.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it was a big deal, and all of these youth programs started turning up.
Must be more Southern
It's
California.
more so, yes,
it must be because I don't. You don't.
It's
feel
not a
it
lot here. It's more SoCal. More SoCal.
Yeah. Interesting.
So did you play any sports?
No, I didn't have a childhood. I was working from the time I was 9 years old.
Damn.
Yeah, Marshawn, she started. And by the way, Alyssa, is this a true story? Your babysitter takes you to an audition without even telling your parents at 7 years old to an Annie audition?
That's correct. It was an open Annie audition and 1,500 kids showed up.
God damn.
4 were picked for the national touring company, and I was one of the 4.
But were you prepared? I mean, she just said, hey, or may have been a hint. I don't know. It said, hey, let's come down. I got an idea. Spend some time with you today. Instead of going to the park, we're going to do an audition.
Basically, she was going in on the audition because she was an equity member and they were also auditioning for the ensemble. So she took me with her and looked at me, and I was like, sort of mimicking what the kids were doing on the stage. And she was like, do you want to go up there? Do you want to audition? And I have no idea what the word audition meant. I just knew that I loved to sing and dance. So I was like, sure. It was this huge, long 14-hour process. And finally, as groups started getting cut down, she called my parents and she was like, I think you probably should come down here. And then they weren't going to let me do it because they were like, what are you talking about? We have a life. We have our, we have business and we have things to do. And the way they tell it, I basically locked myself in my room and was so depressed that I couldn't do it. And then they finally said, okay. So my mom and I went to, on this touring company, and we left my dad, which was bone crushing. But then when I got Who's the Boss, we moved to California, just me and my dad, because my mom was like, well, this is never going to work. A series?
Wait, Alyssa, so what age were you? What age was Who's the Boss? When did you start? What age?
11. I was 11 to 19.
So 11 years old, and your parents and then how do you, it's hard to say no to that, right?
My mom said no. My mom was like, there is no way I am moving this family out to California. You guys can go, because she was like, there's no way this is going to work. And this is a time there were only 3 stations, you guys. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that was it.
Yeah. So but listen, were you actively trying to get that role? Was your mom was out there? She was touring with you for Annie. She was obviously, she bought in enough to your being an actress on stage. You must have gone to an audition with her for Who's the Boss.
I went with my dad, but I don't think they really knew what they were doing. Mind you, they were in their early 30s.
Yeah.
So, it was such a different, and I think New York represented a lot of struggle for them. Like my mom didn't have, we came from very little. And so for them, I think it was opportunity. And I think it was, for me, it was just like my creative outlet. And I've been so blessed to still be able to do it all these years later. And then what it's afforded me.
Well, Marshawn, you may not remember, you were probably weren't even born yet, but Who's the Boss was a freaking monster hit. And I grew up watching Who's the Boss.
Oh, we all did.
Who does?
Come on.
And Alyssa, here's the funny thing. I kind of forgot my calling. My calling was probably to be an actor as well. And I was did a few things.
I know. Doug he just showed us a residual check for like 50 cents from one of his.
But Alyssa, my claim to fame, I was an extra that turned into an actual role in the movie Angels in the Outfield. and your co-star Tony Danza
Yes.
was the other pitcher in the movie.
Your
that's
father,
cool.
So
Tony Danza.
it was Matthew McConaughey's claim to fame. Danny Glover was in it.
Yeah.
And I was the
And
other
you.
pitcher with Tony Danza. And I'll never forget, we're like day 11 of shooting, and Tony literally takes all the non-actors like myself and everybody, and we went to Larry Blake's in Berkeley, and he bought all of us drinks and food, and the greatest guy in the world. But every day between sets, he would roller skate around the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Or his roller blades, whatever it may be. And he'd do that for exercise, like crazy, like 10 miles a day in the Coliseum doing the roller
He's in
blade.
amazing shape. And tap dancing too. Did he tap dance for you?
He did tap dance, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? You've been tap dancing around this one little thing your entire life, Doug. By the way, Alyssa, just so you know, no BS. And Marshawn can attest to this. Doug just 2 days ago sent Marshawn and I a text, and it was his residual a check of like $2.87 for your role in this damn movie.
No, that was the episode of The League with Marshawn. I owe that to Marshawn.
Do you have regrets that you didn't pursue it further?
Oh, Jesus.
No, because Marshawn, I'll tell you, I was very bad at it. But it
No,
was
you
fun.
actually wasn't though.
No, but it was fun. So I've been an agent forever. But anyways, I did that kind of as I was struggling, starting out agent, and it was kind of fun. And then they asked me to be in another baseball movie, and I said no because I had to go make a living and recruit players and da-da-da. But I had a little bit of regret, like, wow, this would have been pretty cool to kind of keep doing. And now Marshawn's a big movie star.
Wow, here
You know,
go.
Gavin, you're kind of a movie star.
Have you ever seen what is that movie called? Jerry Maguire?
I love that movie so much.
Come on.
That's who,
Show me the money.
that is exactly who Doug is. He's that on steroids.
I was Tom Cruise. Marshawn was Cuba Gooding Jr.
Oh, Jesus.
And he would be like, motherfucker, Doug, show
man.
me my money.
Show me his money.
It's not exaggerating. Speaking of money, and by the way, I'm serious about this, Alyssa. I mean, at such a young age, and here you are, you become, I mean, I'd forgotten it was that long. That show lasted that long, which is amazing. You're 11
I had
years
two of
old.
those. Charmed too. Charmed
At the same
lasted
time,
for
right?
8 years too. Yeah.
Just crazy. So you were able to have two huge runs. So you're so young. And we had Demi Lovato on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about child stars, and we were talking about the struggles and the sort of the energy with parents. Sometimes it's all about the parents. Sometimes the parents are taking all the money. Sometimes that pressure and all the stress of fame at such an early age. And you seem to, I mean, in hindsight, I mean, I look at you today, but you weathered that pretty well, didn't you?
Yes, for sure. But my parents have been together since they were 15. They're, I have a brother. There's very big, in my life, community, family has always meant more than anything else. And my mom didn't go to set with me. She actually she hired a guardian on Who's the Boss because it was so important for her to be home for my brother. So I think that was, an indication that was my life and she had her life. But the other thing about, pop stars have a totally different complexity to it because child actors, there's actually something called the Jackie Coogan law.
Yep.
Where we're protected as far as financially, whereas pop stars don't really have that because there's not a union. So they're not protected by, any sort of union. So parents, managers can come in and take a lot of their money as a kid and they don't know.
It's interesting, Alyssa, what we were able to do, the reason we were with Demi was we actually signed a law in the state of California replicating the Coogan law, extending it to content creators, folks on YouTube, et cetera.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Trying to address precisely the exception you just referenced.
Oh, and so many parents use their kids for views and for, advertising dollars. And that's a really important thing. Good for you.
But you never had that. So you had a great, so I love to hear that you had such a stable family. So that relationship to fame, to money, and youth, you were able to weather that pretty well. I also think
my parents at a very young age instilled in me that part of being a fan, and by the way, fame was very different then. I got trolled, but it was through fan mail. So like I didn't have to see it because they went through it all. But, part of that was an era where, we grew up idolizing people like Audrey Hepburn and Jane Fonda and celebrities that actually did, Elton John, people that did something with their fame that was important to society, to community. And so that's how I grew up. So my parents always instilled in me, like, you have this incredible opportunity to really create change. And I think it's why I've continued my activism to this day, because I don't understand the point of being famous if you're not going to do something positive or use your voice for, marginalized communities or human rights issues. And that started for me at 15. During the AIDS epidemic, I was friends with Ryan White, who was, look him up, Google him if you don't know who he is.
I still remember the Phil Donahue interview.
I mean, by the way, in Marshawn, what Alyssa did, and she's about to, and she can express it better than I, but it's so indelible. I mean, this was a time when people with HIV and AIDS, people didn't even want to touch them or be in the same room. And here's Alyssa. Tell us the story. You go on Phil Donahue with Ryan.
And I kissed him to prove that you couldn't get HIV AIDS from casual contact. And
which at the time was just like nobody.
Was this before Magic or after Magic?
This was before Magic.
Before Magic, okay.
Yes.
The beginning of the epidemic.
Yes. And that was the moment. I mean, Ryan White really changed my life because I realized, this is the power of storytelling. This is the power of what I can contribute. And so it took my career to like a different place in my mind. And I think that that's been very helpful in not only just keeping me grounded, but also just the longevity. Because I find like the business is really hard. The people who have long careers are the people who are willing to deal with it, to deal with the hardship of the rejection and the resilience that you have to have a 40-year career in the entertainment industry is rewarded with longevity in your career. And I guess it's a lot like athletes too, like what you have to overcome as a kid, and then in high school sports, and then college sports, and the competition. Like, I feel like you're rewarded for having resilience no matter what you do.
Well, it's interesting, Marshawn. That's a great question for you, because obviously you've been an athlete at the highest level and now you're in the acting business. Have you seen, maybe not you, but a lot of people, whether it be former players or even people you're dealing with now and casting calls and all that stuff, the rejection and whatnot you're seeing as an athlete compared to an actor?
To me, is sort of the same. Considering like when I started in high school, like I wanted to be a quarterback, and I got beat out by my cousin, and I had to program my mind like, okay, I'm not going to be playing quarterback, but I love the game, so where am I actually going to fit in? And have to learn a new position and really get into that. A lot of individuals who don't, it doesn't translate to them, they can fall off. They can fall into a dark place. And
or one bad coach.
Yeah.
So many athletes have that one bad coach and they're like, I can't do this. And
it shows, and it cut their career short. So being able to, adapt to that, as well, like for a situation like, I guess I picked that up from playing sports, but, there's times where I've, read for a role and, I don't hear about it and, have to continue to go out there and, continue to do it. It's more so just, having the right mindset when you're doing these things. And, I kind of don't look at it as like a rejection type thing. It's just more so like, okay, what didn't I do? in order to secure that role. Like, what can I work on? You know what I mean? I take it as a challenge to myself where, you know what I mean? I think I said it before, like, I don't take L's. You know what I mean? I learn lessons. And, you know what I mean? The more that, you know, I go out and I do that, and the more lessons I learn, I'm more seasoned the next time I get the opportunity to go and do it. So, you know what I mean? Capitalizing on every opportunity that I have, and whether I get the role or I don't get the role, being able to learn something from it, you know what I mean, to help me.
But Alyssa, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at like you and Marshawn, the thick skin, everyone thinks you guys are drinking champagne and has fires on every day on a Friday in your office, and life is great. However, you guys got a battle, man. It's a tough business in terms of the entertainment business of sports. And everyone, all the fans just think, oh my God, the life you lived, and no pun intended, charmed and this and that. But like, it's a fucking tough business you guys are in every day, the battles and the grind. And
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Only because, listen, I live a very privileged life, but I think the important thing to remember is that I didn't come from privilege, that I've been working my entire life to achieve this. And I feel like, you know, so often we are looked upon in the entertainment industry as people who are out of touch or elite, whereas really artists, athletes, we are more in touch because most of us came from somewhere we had to get out of.
Amen.
And so I feel like, even though the privilege is here now, we understand the struggle. And that's part of, I think, why I feel like I have to fight so hard for marginalized communities or for working families, is because like that was us. And I think the whatever the opposition has done a really good job as painting us as elite and that we're out of touch and that we don't know what it's like to struggle or to come from nothing. Most artists and athletes do. So we relate, and we're all from all over this country. I mean, I'm from Staten Island.
So, but Alyssa, and you've been out front. I mean, and Marshawn, Doug, I mean, Alyssa, trust me, because we've been in contact for many years on so many different issues, and I can attest to a lot of specific issues on gun violence and work you've done on gender equality, which has been next level. The work you've done in even Ukraine and issues obviously with healthcare and then even going back on HIV and AIDS and so many different things. But how often you get that blowback, and you get it. You're the tip of the spear a lot of this, saying stay in your lane. Like, I mean, to your point, you're in Hollywood, you're out of touch. And so I appreciate you reflecting on that. And I think you're right, for athletes to get the same damn thing.
yeah, well, it's like shut up and don't dribble, or shut up and dribble.
Shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're a conservative, and then you're revered.
Right.
From those same folks.
I think there was a very specific campaign to paint those of us on a certain political side who are celebrities as being out of touch. And I think they did a really good job at that. By the way, I only text Gavin when he pisses me off.
So I guess I'm referencing a lot of text messages. So
well,
this must be
Alyssa, you're not alone. Every show we have somebody, we all say, get at him, get at him, get at him. So, get him, get a Gavin, open pulpit.
Yeah, and so Alyssa's only texted me once in 10 years is what she's basically saying.
I have a question for you. No. Why is the proposal for an amendment in the Constitution, which is a great idea to end Americans?
I know, she hates this, 28th.
Why is it still listed on your website as the 28th Amendment?
I told you we killed all that.
Is it still on your website?
All right, I'm gonna check it out. I haven't looked at the website.
Well,
but in terms of the advocacy, we're not talking about it. She's been running this 28th Amendment for how many years now? How many, seriously?
Well, me or the shoulders that I stand on?
Well, the shoulders you stand on.
101 years. But I've been specifically involved in the Equal Rights Amendment since 2017.
Which would be the 28th Amendment. And we propose a constitutional amendment as it relates to gun safety, which, if it were approved, would be the 28th. And so it came out as a 28th. She texted me immediately. I said, I'm totally with you. I totally respect that. We pulled back on the rhetoric in the campaign, but apparently the website has not. So let me look at that. I appreciate
there you go.
Well done. Proving your advocacy. By the way, when you went on that Donahue show and you kissed Ryan, did you get a ton of hate and blowback?
Yes, I did. I mean, and the trolling at that time, it was.
What was the hate about?
Oh, people started saying that I was HIV positive and that that I was going to die of AIDS and like all the things, because at that time you have to understand, like, fear was such a big part of how politicians, the country, socially, culturally addressed HIV/AIDS, because it was painted as a disease just for the LGBTQ plus community or IV drug users. So when Ryan White came along, and here was this kid who was in school who got HIV from a blood transfusion, he literally became the reinvention of the storytelling of how HIV/AIDS is spread, and he was a saint. And, spoke in front of Congress. He got kicked out of school, fought for the right to go back to school. I mean, just really a special 15-year-old kid. Citizen activism is, to me, the most powerful. And so at that time, it was a really big deal. I don't even know if you can equate anything to it now.
And Alyssa, did he take me back? Did he live a pretty lonely life then? Because I mean, people kind of ostracized him and whatnot. Was he really kind of like on his own? Yeah,
well,
you remember?
Yes, he was. But again, this is he has an incredible mother. Had an incredible mother, and she gave him the strength and the wherewithal to know that like he could really do something, and gave his tragic situation real purpose, and he changed the world.
Quite literally changed. There was laws in his name, Doug, and laws Marshawn. I mean, like literally, it started a march of a movement and an organizational construct, and his life, was made visible and continues to be visible to this day in terms of movements around the world, not just here in the United States, and back to sort of building on shoulders. I mean, so many of the laws we have enshrined today for LGBTQ community come from his fight and his example, and his advocacy and his mom's advocacy and legacy as well, which is powerful. But Alyssa, honestly, I'd forgotten until we were getting together today. You're being there. I mean, and you guys don't even remember Phil Donahue. Oh, it was that was it. Back to there was 3 networks back in the the old days. I mean, Phil Donahue was legend. A god back then, and all eyeballs on it. So when he was that was a hell of a moment, especially for a teenager. The two of you as teenagers in this amazing moment. But I love what you said, and I want to build on this notion of your mind getting stretched at that moment, and it's never gone back to its original form. That you identified yourself as something bigger than just an actress at that moment. That you felt compelled to share your voice.
It gave my fame, because you have to realize, like, born in Brooklyn, I moved to Staten Island. All of a sudden I was famous, right? I was 11 years old. I was on TV, top 10 show, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I didn't understand. And much credit to my parents, even though we struggled financially, I never felt that. So for me, it was a lot like, why me? Like, why am I famous? Like, why can't? And, it was the height of all the teen magazines and posters on people's walls. And it was like, it was very isolating. It was a very weird existence for a teenager. And everything that I went through in my life, they wrote it in Who's the Boss. So like I started developing breasts. All of a sudden we'd show up on Monday and there was an episode called Sam's First Bra. And it was like so humiliating. Yeah. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And what it did was, what Ryan did was it gave it purpose, where I was like, oh, this is why me. This is why. Like I understand now.
Why not me?
Why not me? Right.
Why not me?
Exactly.
And you had the mindset for it too. That's big, especially being young.
It was a different time. It really was a time where celebrity involvement in causes meant a lot of awareness.
But you still don't see, I think, do you see enough in celebrities, entertainers, musicians now? I know athletes get very involved to a degree, but you still don't see as much as you probably should from people that have the power to do things, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's, but I get it. It's, you're putting yourself out. I mean, I think about the 2024 election and how, you had Taylor Swift and Beyonce and all of these huge people endorsing Kamala, and then she lost. And so I would think there's an element of like, does my stock go down? Like, I don't feel that way, but I would imagine, when you're sort of paraded out almost like a show pony and an election, is on your shoulders, I feel like when you don't win that, it's not only devastating, I would think, but also does your stock go down? So that's why I consider myself more of an activist, because I will always be boots on the ground. And there are a group of us, I mean, whether it, be athletes or actors or celebrities, that just don't give a shit,
But Melissa, that's exactly what our partner Marshawn's done his whole career too. Like, to be honest with you, when we started this podcast, Marshawn got a lot of shit. Like, the fuck you doing this with Gavin, da-da-da. And Marshawn's like, listen, man, that's my brother, my family. I've known him. I know who he is. So you might want to give me shit, but fuck you. And so the point is, like, like we have people, some people like, I don't want to come on the show.
Meanwhile, we had Marshawn's back when he's kneeling on the sideline, in the NFL and expressing his quiet point of view. Of course. Or sitting down, not kneeling.
Yeah, sitting down.
But listen, Marshawn's always done the same thing. He's going to believe in what he believes in and do it, no matter what anybody says. And I appreciate that about you as well, because you've done that since a young kid, which is really rare, because you got a young kid now. We got young kids, and my kids, some of my kids have done some of this stuff, but when you see it at that young of age, it's pretty cool to see.
Well, and also I think going back to like the fear factor, I think when you're a kid, you're not afraid of losing an audience or losing money. I think the more established artists, movie stars in particular, that you would think would be more vocal during this time of political divide. I think there is an element of like, well, if I'm not making $20 million a movie, how am I gonna live? Like, how am I gonna pay for everything that I have to pay for? And so I think there is like a fear that people are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of alienating half the country. But I have to tell you, I have never been, I get a lot of shit online. I have never, and I go to cons. I was just on Broadway for 3 months. I have never met anyone face to face who has ever, except for at an NRA convention when I was protesting. And this guy came over to me with an AR-15 wrapped around his back. But other than that, there has never been anyone that has confronted me in person about the political stand that I take or the cultural stand that I take. And so I wonder how much of it is just really having that keyboard warrior mentality, or maybe there are troll farms. Like maybe that's a real...
The online versus offline world. By the way, Marshawn, just curious and just building off that, I mean, without reliving when you decided to just quietly express yourself on the sidelines, did you get anyone in your face? Anyone ever confront you?
Face to face?
Yeah, face to face, like Alyssa just said about her experience.
Nah. I mean, the thing is, I don't think it's like confronting you, but it's more so like, you have maybe some individuals from the organization who probably want to understand, where you're coming from or why you're doing what you're doing. But what I do notice a lot of the times is like, a lot of people is not which is why I don't mind sitting down having conversations with you. But a lot of people not knowledgeable enough to understand. And you know what I mean, when there's a lot of issues and shit going on, a lot of people, you know what I mean, they're afraid to ask questions because they don't want to feel like, you know what I mean, not knowing, or if I'm asking I'm not asking a dumb question. And then I mean, just the fact where it's all these type of issues going on, and then I mean they'll look at you for your response to what you got going on or the way you feel, and because you don't think that maybe your thought process will be accepted the same way that I mean another individual's is. A lot of people would tend to shy away from or not speak up. Just because, go back to that same thing, like not being very knowledgeable about it.
I also think that there's an element of like the fact that we can educate ourselves on issues is a testament to how we are okay in life. I think there's a certain amount of people in this country who can't put food on their table, right? So that is the issue that is concerning them. It is not, the umbrella of why that issue is. It's the immediacy of like, I can't feed my kid. So in a way, it is a sort of a luxury and to be able to think and to educate yourself and to have these conversations, because a lot of people can't even, they're one financial dilemma away from being completely bankrupt.
Amen. But it just, going back, just because, just sort of the origin story, which I appreciate Ryan being a big part of that and sort of the spark of your advocacy, because you're so defined in this context. And that's why this conversation is so appropriate that we're having, and the dialectic we're having around the benefit, the pros and cons at a time of such polarization, perhaps even more than any other time in our respective lives. But you mentioned Audrey Hepburn, you mentioned the people that sort of iconically you looked up to when you were a young actress, but was there a mentor in particular? Was there someone in particular from an advocacy perspective that you really identified with that sort of became a North Star for you when you were growing up?
Oh, so many people. I mean, I think, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was hugely,
even years ago, Alyssa,
years ago,
way back.
Huh. I think, but again, I grew up in a family that was very politically aware. Like my parents were part of the student strike in the 60s. So I think I don't know. I think that there was a different level of civic responsibility that we don't really have anymore. And I think that there were so many activists, Gloria Steinem, so many people to look up to as a kid, as a young person, and to be sort of at the cusp of, I was born in 1972. So the cusp of the idea of feminism, and how, when you look at textbooks on feminism, it didn't happen until the 1970s. There was not one textbook on feminism before a certain time, which is so crazy. But, as I've gotten older, Angela Davis, Martin Luther King Jr., all of the people.
But Gavin, look at, by the way, look at the athletes, Alyssa. You got, from Jim Brown back in the day to Kareem, Bill Walton, Ali.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the forefront of what these guys did,
Arthur
which
Ashe,
was amazing.
Billie Jean.
You don't have
Billie
that.
Jean,
Billie Jean, but you
Next
don't have
level.
that level of star power that's involved like these guys were back in the day. Remember, Marshawn, the famous photo of it was Jim Brown, Ali, Kareem, and I think it was can't remember the other was, but four. I mean, just A-level people.
How about this? Does anyone remember how Roberto Clemente died? He was a UNICEF ambassador, and he died on a plane crash.
Plane crash. That's right. But I didn't know it was around UNICEF.
Delivering supplies after an earthquake.
Wow.
That's right.
Now they wouldn't even, if there was any, I'm a UNICEF ambassador, if there was any danger, they would not be sending anyone anywhere. especially not on a small plane.
So Alyssa, you as a mom now with your kids, are they into, I mean, I know one's a baseball player, but would you want them to follow your same path in regards to the entertainment stuff?
So before I had kids and I was asked that question, I was like, oh, there's no way. They need to go to school. They need to go to college, blah, blah, blah. But then I had kids and I realized that they kind of come out who they are. And it is our job as parents to give them other experiences and to hopefully plant other seeds of wonder. But like my daughter came out a performer and she's doing musical theater now. And I can't imagine taking it away from her. It's her people. It's what she identifies with. It's how she expresses herself. So at this point, I got to kind of be like, now, mind you, it's a much different time. Like when I was a kid and you were a young actor, it was all about, I wanted to be on TV or be in the play Annie or whatever. Now it's like, I want a YouTube channel. That's the goal.
Because I have to ask, dyslexia. You and I share that in common. Not easy in your profession. Not easy in any profession. But I mean, take me back. I mean, you have a difficult time reading? Was it writing, spelling? Did it impact your confidence? Have you overcome the issues of dyslexia? Your kids experiencing any signs of that, which often is the case?
It was very difficult, but this is like one of those weird conversations where I think that like being a child actor was actually very beneficial for me because I was tutored on the set. So I didn't have to worry about catching up with the rest of the class or learning at a specific pace. Like the tutor recognized it. My mom's dyslexic, so she was always watching out for it. And I got to learn at my own pace with a tutor. So she not only, made me feel like a genius, but also gave me such a love of learning and an understanding of the learning difference that I have. And it was hard in the business as far as like auditioning and having to read sides. So I'd go into sides or like the scenes. So I'd usually go in for auditions completely off the script. So I'd have everything memorized. I'm actually oddly good at math, which there's certain people in that are dyslexic that can do math.
Gavin failed his geometry and statistics.
This is, absolutely true. That's actually true.
So yeah, I think that, it is my superpower, I say, because
I like that. See, Doug?
Because
superpower. Don't look down on us with dyslexia.
Well, I think it's how we look at even problem solving, because
exactly.
we see things in a different order or a different perspective, or so I love it. I love it creatively too. I think it's been it's part of why I'm me.
Alyssa,
I love it. Love it.
We could talk to you for hours. I got to be honest with you. I've always been a huge fan of yours, and now I know why. Because
that's nice.
What you've done and where you came from. And
how long, Doug? How long she's done it? This notion of resilience
100%.
and longevity, that's the next level. And especially starting that young, how so many people don't have this example, and how she keeps coming back in terms of standing on principle and standing on purpose. And I admire the hell out of that. And thanks for sorry to cut you off, Doug, but just thanks for taking so many hits for so many other people. Thanks for being a voice for a lot of people that don't have a voice, and having the courage of your damn convictions. It's, as we say, increasingly rare. So
thank you for saying that. It has been the honor of my lifetime to be able to do what I do.
Amen.
So thank you. And thanks for having me.
We look to see your son who's 13 in the bigs one day, and I want to represent him.
Okay, great. Check him out. Milo Bugliari.
It's all transactional.
At Milo Bugliari on Instagram. I think you'll be impressed.
That's it. That's why he asked you about your agent. I guess he was trying to substitute. Yeah. Is that what that was about, Doug?
Exactly.
Listen, if you ever need a female guest host to come in for for all the obvious reasons.
Well, not only
Alyssa,
what are you suggesting?
Alyssa,
what are you suggesting? 3 of us? What do you mean?
Not only that, we're going to invite you to a Kraken game as a hockey guru with Marshawn in Seattle sometime in the new year. How about
I would
that?
love to do that. I would
break
love
it down for me.
Perfect.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you,
for all you all do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great to be with you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for doing this. Hey, Doug, we love hearing from our listeners. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email us. Doug, where do you email us?
It's Politickin at iHeartRadio.com. That's Politickin at iHeartRadio.com. We want all the questions, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, to you.
Doug, to Beast Mode, send your questions to politicking at iHeartRadio.com.